Bobby Riggs is, if you don't know by now, is probably the most talked about athlete, certainly in this country and possibly all over the world. I think when Bobby was 24 or 25, he won everything at Wimbledon and then was in relative obscurity for quite a number of years. But as you well know, he certainly is not obscure anymore. You can hardly pick up a magazine nowadays. This is Sports Illustrated. This is the New York Times Magazine section. All about Bobby Riggs. They describe him as a combination of Mickey Rooney and Mark Spitz. And he admits readily to being 55 years old. And his latest little, I don't know whether you'd call it a hustle, a con game, or a gambit, or whatever, will take place September the 20th in the Houston Astrodome when he will play Billie Jean King, who was a guest on our show last week, for a flat, as they say, $100,000 winner-take-all tournament. Would you welcome, please, Bobby Riggs? Well, Robert, it's nice to finally meet you.
Well, John, I'm happy to be back on the Johnny Carson show, and glad that you're going to be here this time. Last time you
I was on vacation.
In Las Vegas, having a good time.
That's right. What's the difference, Bobby, between a hustler, as you describe yourself, and a con man? There's got to be a difference. A con man is
you got to have a little of both, I think.
Yeah, a little con and a little hustle.
To be a good hustler, you have to have be a little pretty good con man too.
Yeah. What was the year? I mentioned you were what? Were you 24 when you took everything at Wimbledon?
No, I was about 21.
21 years of
Right.
age. And you won the men's singles,
Right.
the doubles, and mixed doubles, and the mixed doubles. And did you not announce, now I hear so many stories from different friends of yours, and I don't know whether some of them are true or whether some of them are another hustle, but you announced when you went over there that you were going to win them all.
Right.
To the British sporting
They
fraternity.
gave me very short odds, but it still was a worthwhile gamble that I made. At that age, 100 pounds, I ran it up to $100,000 at the time.
So you went over and announced ahead of the time you were going to take Wimbledon singles, doubles, and mixed doubles.
Everybody thought I was out of my mind. I
Yeah.
should have been happy to win one of them. It's never been done before or since on the first visit, winning all three. So that was a pretty good feat.
And so you managed to pyramid that 100 pounds into a pretty good bundle, huh?
Still haven't spent all my pounds in England.
Oh, that's remarkable. Now, Billie Jean, we had on the show last week, as you know. How did that match come about? Because originally, I think as most people who follow the game at all know, you originally made a reference to women should not make as much money, and you're tired of hearing this, because of tournaments, because they don't play as well as men. And of course, immediately the women called you a male chauvinist pig and so forth, and a big mouth. And you challenged, I think, Billie Jean King first, and she elected, for whatever the reason at that time, to say no thank you. And then you took on Margaret Court, one of the great women players in the world. And, of course, it was kind of a short, unhappy day for Margaret Court. Right. But you did what you said you were going to do, didn't you?
Exactly. I wrote the script for it and announced it and then acted in it and then proceeded to go ahead and do everything that I said I was going to do. And poor Margaret just thought that that it was a sort of circus carnival type of match, and it was confusing for her, and she didn't like my soft shots, my slices and lobs, and she said, my goodness, the girls hit the ball harder than this. I can't believe anybody could hit the ball that soft. But next time I could bomb him, and there's 7 or 8 other girls on the tour that could beat the dickens out of me. So I was very delighted at that kind of a statement. And Billie Jean King...
Now, she's a good player. She moves around a lot, right?
Yeah, she's tough. She won her 5th Wimbledon this year. And to answer your question, Johnny, how did this match come about? After that great match that Margaret and I had down at San Diego Country Estates, where she had that very sad Mother's Day, after I presented her those beautiful roses.
Well, she had lost. As soon as I saw you standing in the stands with the roses,
Billie Jean
I said, it's all over. It's all over.
She said after that match, my goodness, Margaret let us girls, us women, down all over the world. She says, I didn't want to play that Riggs. I did everything I could do to get out of the match. I ducked him for 2 or 3 years, but because Margaret let women's tennis down, she says, I've got to get in there and make it right for women's tennis. So the fantastic thing that happened is Jackie Barnett, who produced the first show for us and did such a fabulous job for everyone, is going to also produce this next show as the executive director of the show.
Yeah.
He's a great producer, and we'll have another fantastic TV spectacular. And would you believe this, Johnny? A guy by the name of Sidney Schlinker from the Houston Astrodome.
Sidney Schlinker? I don't believe that. No.
Well, this guy, believe me, he's one of the greatest guys you'll ever see. And I think that it's almost an unbelievable, unreal thing to think here, a mixed tennis match going to the Astrodome. They can only seat 46,000 people. The biggest crowd ever to see a tennis match in the history before is about 20,000. And now they've got 46,000 seats for sale there. And people from all over the world have made reservations, are going to fly in junkets, and the tourist agencies in every city in the country are going to go there, and they're going to sell out the Houston Astrodome for a tennis match. So naturally, I'm just as thrilled and as proud, and I think it's just, you know, it's sort of an unreal kind of a story to think here at 55, I'm, outdrawing those really great players like Laver and Smith, and more people are interested in Riggs and King than ever before in any other tennis match. So I think that's fantastic.
Bobby, would you tell me something? What did I ask you?
How this match came about.
That's
And I'll tell you why it came about too, John.
it. You lost me there somewhere, yeah.
You know, she's carrying a banner for the women. Billie Jean King.
Do you like women? So a lot of people said you don't like women. This is really more than just...
I like them real good in the bedroom, the kitchen, and when they bring you the slippers and the pipe. And, I really think...
You're a male chauvinist, eh?
I really think the best way to handle the women is to keep them pregnant and barefoot. This way, they don't worry about getting out in the men's world and competing for jobs and trying to get equal money and all that baloney. And they stay in their place, and they help their men, and they're behind the throne, because I really believe, John...
You want them out plowing the fields, don't you, and just having kids?
The male is king, the male is supreme, and the women should know that. To bomb Billie Jean King in this match and set back women's lib movement about another 20 years.
All right, now, Billie Jean said, she says, all right, you psyched out Margaret Court, and Margaret was kind of immobilized and really didn't understand. But Billie Jean says, you know, she's going to give you all the junk shots and the garbage shots and the chops and the slices and so forth, and she can handle that.
Would you believe that? She says she can take the pressure and play for the money as well as I can. I've been doing this since I was 7 years old.
How did you get to be a hustler? Is that born into you? I understand. Now, let me ask you a couple of stories. Every time I run into somebody that knows you say, let me tell you what Bobby did last week. And they give me some fantastic story, and I said, no, he didn't do that. The latest was, and I want to check it, says you were at somebody's house, or maybe it was your house, and you were dribbling a basketball. Does this sound familiar?
Right.
Up the steps of a house to the second floor. And you were learning to bounce the ball one step at a time up to the second floor of the house, which is difficult. And then you learned to do it with your eyes closed.
Right.
Then when somebody showed up, you said offhandedly, hey, do you think you could dribble this ball up the stairs one stair at a time? And the guy said, well, I might. And you said, you set it up and then said, how much? I bet you I can do it blindfolded, and then proceeded to do it. Is that true?
Absolutely true. I did that many times, and that's one of the best hustles I've ever come up with, because believe me, it's very hard to do, and unless you practice it, you're not going to be too good at it.
But then the idea of a hustle is you gotta know what you're doing, but you gotta have the edge. You gotta know what you can do.
That's the keynote. You can't be guessing about what you can do. You have to know what you can do. And I know I can control that tennis ball, put it on a dime, and I know these girls can only play with themselves, and they can't play with the men. Even if I'm 30 years older than she is, she's going to get psyched out and be bombed just like Margaret Court did.
Really think so, huh?
I'm going to be like Joe Namath and come out and say, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Now, you've had that match. You've been in every article and every, the news magazines all over. Now, do you think you're going to get too much exposure from this? I read something in the article. You got to want to handle this very carefully.
I don't think that can happen.
Yeah.
And another reason why we're in this thing is that it's so much fun and so much excitement, and I like fun.
You're not doing it just for the dough.
This is a great, lot of fun, a lot of excitement in this, and everyone else is excited about it. And I'm happy to say that my age, there's a lot of other old guys all around the world. They remember when I was young, they follow my career, they identify with me, and I'm their guy, and I'm carrying the banner for the men all over the world. She says she's got a cause. She's not playing for money. She's playing for those women, and we got to keep those women back. Keep them in
We're going to have them marching right out of here. What was I going to say? No. Now, when you say old all the time, that bothers me, because you're not that old.
55 is pretty old.
No, it's not. It might have, 10 years ago, that might have been old to me. It ain't now.
I tell you this, John.
10 years ago, I should have thought a 55-year-old should be in a home somewhere, but...
I'll say this, life really begins at 55, because I've never had so much fun in my whole career. Playing tennis now is really great, but I'm just really delighted that I was able to discover this mixed tennis, as we call it, sex tennis, men versus women. And the only reason that we're able to bring it about was the tremendous edge I give them in age. And I told these girls that they couldn't play, and they couldn't even beat an old guy like me with 1 foot in the grave. And that really egged them on and challenged. They said, baloney, that guy can't get out of his own way, and we'll bomb him, you see. And to show you how wrong a lot of tennis experts were, when we played the first match down there at San Diego Country Estates, there were 24 newspaper experts there, and 18 of them came out and picked Margaret Court, and about 4 of them came out for me.
Well, I talked to some old friends of yours before that match, Don Budge and people like that, and I said to Don Budge, I says, how do you think that match will come out? This was the Margaret Court match. And Don Budge told me, he said, Margaret Court will be lucky if she wins 3 games. Now, that was in 2 sets. And she won 3 games out of the whole 2 sets. So,
but everybody says she had an off day.
I think she did.
And
Don't you
Roses,
really?
Roses absolutely did her in. That she blushed and she didn't know how to take it, and she never got back on the right track. So I don't know what I'll hand Mrs. Billie Jean King
You'll think of
before the
something.
match, but I'll think of something.
I have a feeling you will. I don't know.
Maybe a box of candy.
Yeah. All right. You're gonna show me a few things tonight? I really want it.
Listen,
I've just started this game. I've been playing 6 months, and I want a few
I know
tips.
you're a terrific player, but I tell you what'll improve your game. If you get the book that I just wrote called Court Hustler, you'll learn how I beat Margaret Court. Then you can get out there and challenge some of these girls.
You just wrote a book, Bob? What was it called?
The Court Hustler.
The Court Hustler.
Is that a great title? Comes out in September. You'll love it.
Of this year?
Of this year.
How fortuitous. Okay. We'll be back for a tennis lesson after this word from the Celanese players.